Oh my gosh. Hey, Alisha.
Hey, friend, how are you?
I am doing so well. And I'm thrilled to be having this conversation with you today as we talk about what's going on with you, what's going on with the current project, and what's ahead for you and the work. How are you today?
I'm feeling good. It's warming up in New York City. And so I'm in a good place. I'm in a good place spiritually, emotionally, physically, and that is very, very much so to having some time off to really sit and think and feel all the things. So I'm just good. I'm in a good place.
I love it. Let's start there. Had some time off, took some months off in a sabbatical, which I am so excited that you gave yourself and that you stood by. And before we talk about that, it's the 5 year mark of this work. 2020, we piloted this thing called the Current Project and brought it forward in the world. And so, first of all, I want to pause and just acknowledge that for 5 years, half of a decade, you have committed yourself to this thing in the world about Black single mothers and thriving. So, I want to start here. Tell me, what are you most proud of as an organization that hit a 5 year anniversary? What are you
Mhm.
most proud of as the leader and founder of this mission? And then lastly, and probably most importantly to me, like what are you proud of as a human at this 5 year mark?
Yeah. I think we could run the gamut of all the successes over the last 5 years, but I think the thing that I'm most proud of is being able to give language to the lived experiences of Black single mothers, the word that we coined Midler Mom, right? Being able to really nail down a word, a term, a phrase, a state of being for Black single mothers who are living in this kind of middle state. Um, it is legacy work that I'm most proud of. And I think kind of along those lines as a leader, I'm really proud that Black single mothers do have this kind of terminology. They have this way of orienting themselves
Mm,
in the world. They have this phrase that really grounds their experiences because the thing about living in this kind of middle space as Black single mothers who are educated and well read and raising children and have our own goals and dreams, sometimes people just don't get it. They can't really put the pieces together of what we say we are experiencing, and oftentimes what our social and economic backgrounds say about us. And so, as a leader, it means a lot to me that there are thousands of women across the country who are able to say, here's a word and term that really grounds my lived experience. Here's a word and term that I'm able to take into the school board meetings, into conversations with politicians, even into their religious places, and being able to say, here's the makeup of my lived experience. And here's something that becomes tangible and practical and pragmatic to say, here's something that I can respond to in really meaningful ways. As a human, gosh, this journey over the last 5 years and really largely over the last nine since I've been in New York, and being able to really track how the origin story of the current project was out of my own lived experience and the kind of state I was in, the kind of
yeah.
disorientation between the increase in economic mobility, but also having these kind of real life strains on my finances and raising a child at the time. And now being in this place where that story has shifted, right? But it's not just a shift on economics, it's not just a shift on, um, but it really is a shift about being able to deeply connect to the newness of story and how our stories often are changing, our stories are often moving and shifting. Um, and just the gift of being able to say, gosh, that girl from 2016, her lived experience birthed something that was really meaningful in the world. But now in 2025, that meaningfulness has shifted
Mhm.
because our stories and experiences change. And I just think that's such a gift. And I think that's something that we want to offer, have always wanted to offer Black single mothers, is to say that even as your story changes, there is a particular grounding and real meaningfulness into the shift in those stories. That really propel us into what's coming. So It's been good. It's
I
good.
love that. A shifting in story, a shifting in meaningfulness. And yet, while these two truths are shifting, story and meaning, there's a grounding, there's an anchoring. And
Yeah.
anchoring is the fullness of your human self. So, yeah, I love that. I love that. And I love how, in the same way that you talked about your own lived evolution, 2016, you were a woman, a being. In 2025, you are a different woman and a different being, and much the same. The organization has followed your own evolution and revolution. And so, to
Mhm.
some degree, I think from a board chair seat, I love that we have been on this kind of mutuality of a journey with you,
Yeah.
or to human. So 5 years is a long time. Most nonprofits, as we know, shutter in 2 years and very rarely impact thousands of people against the conditions that you were up against, we were up against: a global pandemic, a shifting economic landscape, a complete rewrite of the rules around equity and inclusion at the federal level. And yet you made it. But you did not make it on all successes. Let's be clear. You made you made it through some failing forward, some language that I love. So I'd love to hear kind of what's been your favorite failure, or what's been that kind of transformative fail forward moment that you think is critical to anchor right now.
Man, I did. I failed a lot. But there's probably not one thing, but I think what I will name is that um, I failed often and quickly.
Mm, yeah,
I
yeah.
failed often and quickly, and the ability to fail quickly was really the result of having a strong board chair, a strong board, a strong,
Mhm.
group of advisors, a community of reliable others, which I often talk
Yeah.
about, of people who are seeing things in real time, who are walking alongside me in real time, who are checking things in real time. And
Mhm.
even when my ambition and risk taking and bleeding heart often got in the way of of mission. People who are saying, you know what, if that's what you believe you should do, we're gonna
Yeah.
let you do it.
Yeah.
And when you come back and say, you know what, guys, that wasn't that probably was not the best way to address or handle or move.
Yeah.
Being able to say, all right, so what's the next step, right? And so I think that is important for the time that we're in now because and I'm reminded of something that, my muse, Toni Morrison, often says is that moments in where we are in this world is when artists do their art. This is when we write. It is in the tough times and seasons that we are called to produce really meaningful things, but it also means the increased risk of failing. Right. And the increased risk of trying, but there's nothing wrong with trying. And failure is the thing that teaches you very quickly about how to pivot into the next. And so, I'm grateful for the failures and I'm
Yeah.
grateful for the ability to fail quickly and not let my ego or interest or bleeding heart get in the way of the bigger work and mission. So, maybe in my tell-all book, I'll tell the ways that I,
Oh, come on,
that
tell
I
all.
was
I
like,
love it.
yeah,
So, per usual, here you go teaching. Failure is the thing that teaches us quickly how to pivot to the next.
yeah, yeah,
Whew.
that's good.
Yeah, yeah, it does. It does. And I've seen that. And in some ways, let's say you were 4 years into this work when you began to feel a rumble of a need to pivot, and your pivot was a pause. It was
Yeah,
a need to pause and to rest. And a few months ago, in conversation with the board, we aligned with you and agreed and affirmed that you needed a season for what I call and love from Thomas Merton, a sacred pause, a pause that is not about stopping, but a pause that is about discovering. And you took that. So tell me, what's been happening with you, in you, for you, with the work since that sabbatical?
gosh, yeah, I went on sabbatical November 1st of 2024. And gosh, such a gift and privilege to, as a Black single mother living in New York City, to be able to take that kind of, like, I want to be sure to name that. Um, but over that time, I just discovered so much about myself. Yeah, there's these things like I now like am into yoga. Okay.
Okay,
And
yoga girly.
who knew? And I discovered that I actually really do enjoy nature and the mountains and all those things. I had an opportunity to travel to Tucson and to San Diego and LA and San Francisco and just really ground myself in these kind of new discoveries. But I think that's what sabbatical allowed for. It allowed for me to do deep therapeutic work, working through
Mm,
grief, working through the wrestling I was feeling about my work as the leader of the current project. And it gave the kind of space necessary to feel the feelings, to be hit in the head about the realities of those feelings, to
yeah.
be able to pull the threads of what those feelings were. Was it depression? Was it grief? Was it exhaustion? Did I
Mm,
just need a nap? It was really important for me to be able to take the time to pull the thread to get to where the source of the wrestling was. And gosh, being able to settle in those feelings, adapt to those feelings, write about those feelings, and really being able to do these check-ins with myself. When I wake up in the morning, do I still feel grounded in the decisions that I'm making?
mm,
And what has happened over the last 4.5 months is that the answer is yes.
mm.
And so, I know we're going to get into a little bit about like what are the outcomes of the
Yeah.
sabbatical time, but I just wanted to kind of paint that picture about what it has meant to have the privilege of rest. The right to rest is probably the right way to say
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
And what this kind of spaciousness has allowed for clarity of mind, clarity of spirit, and clarity about who I am outside of family loss, outside of leadership titles, outside
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
all the kind of roles that we take on either by choice or by force sometimes. And
Yeah.
so yeah, that's what sabbatical has done. I don't want to get too far ahead of your great line of questioning, but
No, no, this is great. I love that. I love the idea of pulling the thread,
Mm,
because there's courage in that, pulling that thread. And as you mentioned it, I thought about, you have that thread hanging off your clothes, and if you pull it, the risk is that whole thing will unravel.
yeah,
And in fact, in org leadership, sometimes that's actually the call, is
yeah.
pull it and see where it leads you. So I'm curious, and I think let's just hop there. So you pulled it.
Mm-hmm.
What happened? Like, what's next for the organization? What's next for you after pulling the thread?
After pulling the thread, I pulled the thread, and discerned and decided that
Ooh,
it is time to sunset the current project.
okay, yes. Say it again. Say it one more time.
I have discerned and decided that it is time to sunset the current project. I
Wow.
feel after 5 years, I've done my work. Not only the external work of raising nearly $1 million and meeting, tons of media hits and all the kind of things by which we measure public success, but I
Yeah,
very much feel like I've done my work.
yeah,
Like I said earlier, the shifting of story
yeah,
about who I was when I started this org. I have changed, God, a dozen times over. And the
yeah,
honoring of that change often means saying, bringing to an end of something that is actually going really well.
yeah.
And so, it was really important to me of having the support of the board as we talked about this last fall and earlier this year, being able to think about what is the legacy imprint that we can leave as an organization now that I've made this decision. And so we have decided to take the overflow of the generosity of all of our donors and funders and re-grant 6 figures worth of funding back to 4 Black women-led organizations across the country in Atlanta, Harlem, Maryland, and in St. Louis. And these organizations are led by Black women. Some of them are single mothers. to really make a real investment in organizations that we thought were in alignment with our work around economics, around spiritual well-being, emotional well-being, offering Black single mothers access to things like free mental health care. And so that re-granting work has been the cherry on the top of this decision, because I never thought in a million years that this girl from East Side of Atlanta who started this organization in the middle of a pandemic, who would get the trust of so many people to give into the work that we were doing for Black single mothers, and be able to re-gift that into the lives of other Black women-led organizations, is beyond my wildest dreams. And so that's what we have done. The work is
Yeah.
done. And I think it serves as a model, right, of being able to um, lean into the feelings that we have, not ignore
Yeah.
them, and think about where the opportunity is to really reinvest out of the overflow of the generosity of others. So that's what
Ooh.
we are. Now you know.
It's out there. So much here, discerned and decided.
Mm.
That's a push, but also you using agency. This language of sunset, which is beautiful in that a sun will rise again, some
Come
kind of sun.
on.
And so I love that. The idea that your work is done. And from a board level, I think what I want to stamp for the world who listens is that we agree.
Mm,
We agree that not only is your work done in a kind of chronological sense, but your work is done in that very socio-spiritual sense that like this call has been satisfied.
yeah.
And so as folks who took a plunge with you with the work, I think I
Mhm.
want to pause and just say, servant, well done. Like, well done for the way that you have carried this call. Well
Yeah.
done for the way that you have stewarded this mission. Um, and I think, and you will appreciate this language. I truly believe in my heart, and I was thinking about this, that a great cloud of witnesses is proud of you.
Oh gosh.
I fundamentally believe that, and we get to be the testimonies in lived body of that great cloud. So
Yeah.
well done.
Amen and Ashe.
Well done. Well done. So that's what's next for the org. And thank you for grounding us that I'm your friend. So I want to hear what's next for you, the human.
Yeah. Something I have been thinking about really this last 2 decade era. Uh,
Mm,
time, my daughter, Ashley, she's 20, so that's really how I clock
okay.
time.
I love it. I love it. I love it.
Uh, and the kind of feeling of contentment.
Mm,
I think for the last 20 years, I have always known either intellectually or spiritually what was next.
mm,
Um, but now I'm in this place of a contentment that's not fueled by what's next, not the next thing to solve or the next thing to fix or anything like that, but the contentment of that's fueled by a grounded, quiet state of being that is satisfied with the work I've done.
mm.
And for the first time in my adult life, I don't know what's next. And I love that for me. I love that for me,
Yeah.
because it's the kind of hustle and grind and nervous system excitement that often comes with, as a Black woman, as a Black single mother, as someone who is always thinking about the next pivot. It is a gift to be able to say, I really don't know what's next. I know what I want to experience. I want to
Yeah.
experience a regulated nervous system. I want to experience nature and sun and being outside. I want to experience the ability to write and be creative, which is what I've been doing the last month or so. I really want to be able to experience what Thurman calls the sound of the genuine.
Whew.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to be able to tap into that. And so, you know, the next for me is very much rooted in how do I maintain this kind of experience, this spaciousness to be able to hear the
Mm.
genuine sound of Alisha,
Yeah.
to not be fueled and driven by the next thing, the next fix, the next hustle, the next brand, the next marketing of myself, which is what I've been doing for the last 20 years. And being able to take a minute to really settle into, I think, the truest essence of who I am is, which is someone who teaches and someone who tells great stories and someone who is a damn good writer.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that's
That
it.
ending, a damn good writer.
Damn, I'm good at it. I've been doing it for a long time. I
I-
surprise myself sometimes. I'm like, ooh, somebody should read that.
You know, it's interesting. Freire talks about this, that there are some people who have the gift to liberate through word. And,
Yeah.
you know, I testify that that is, in fact, one of your damn good gifts is liberating through the word. So let's stay there because now I'm gonna pull on this writer's bag.
Mhm.
So you're headed into your next, and some language that you taught the board recently, grounded again in your luminary, Mother Morrison, around the next act,
Yeah.
and that you are embracing this next act, whatever that act takes you. So there's kind of an element of improv in this next act for you, a yes and I love that. Um, so you're in your bag as a writer, a damn good one at that. So you're writing the first line of the next act you're embracing. And we get to read the first line of the next act. So what is it? What's the first line?
New York Times bestselling book, first line.
Yes, your test bestseller. But Oprah has called you.
Yes. She's called and said it's going to be on our book club. I'm coming to Super Soul Sunday. It's a whole thing.
All the things. So she opens her copy.
Mm-hmm. And it reads, it wasn't a pivot. It was alignment.
Call R.S. Jones. Come get my body.
It
It
wasn't a
wasn't
pivot.
a pivot. It was alignment.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Ashe.
Ashe. Ashe.
Ashe. Wow. Wasn't, yeah. It
Gosh.
wasn't a pivot. It was alignment.
Yeah.
I'd read it. So
Book
I,
club.
I love this. Listen, I don't want to hold you or the listener. Is there anything else you want to say as we prepare to end this conversation, or anything you want to offer? The floor is yours.
Yeah. I have mine, if you don't mind, my little handy dandy notebook.
Of course, yeah.
Um, and I was in a sound bath in Brooklyn doing yoga because I'm a yoga girl now. And I was wrestling about a dream I had about my mom who passed a couple years ago and wanting to ground some of the storytelling about her and my life, but finding it very disjointed because our family lineage is very disjointed. And I think
Mhm.
that's true for a lot of folks who are from the African diaspora.
Mhm.
You know grandma, you might even know great grandma, but there are a couple of other people in the lineage whose stories you just don't know.
Yeah.
And spirit, I was wrestling with like, gosh, I don't know. And now that my mom has passed and my grandmother has passed, I'm like, damn, those connecting tissues that could tell me the answers aren't here anymore. And spirit said something to me. He said, you don't have to know their names or stories to know that they're in you. It is the fragmented knowledge about your family history that is more common than not. How we piece ourselves together with the incompleteness is the beauty of the journey self-identification. And so that is my offering to those of us who are wrestling, who are discerning, who are pulling at the threads, who often feel like they are the one of one or the two of two, the first to do, the first to go, the second to do, the second to go, who are often looking for examples outside of themselves.
Yeah.
Spirit is everything that you need to know, even in the fragmented places are already in you. And so that is my offering, and that is where I ground myself in this season of my life. So,
Alisha, I love you.
I love you.
Lord loves you. The work loved you, past tense, and the universe will ever love you. Thank you for this conversation. Thank you for insight into your heart. And I look forward to being a witness to your next act.
Thank you, Robert. I love you.
Love you. Talk soon.
Bye.